Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
With training camp now just a little less than a month away, this is the quietest time of the offseason for the NFL, of the entire 365-day calendar. But the Seahawks making some news today, bringing back veteran cornerback Shaquille Griffin, who last played for the Minnesota Vikings. Now, we know that there has been interest in the Seahawks and SHAQ over the last couple of months, as he did visit VMAC. I believe it was shortly before the draft. They've been kicking their tires on some veteran cornerbacks. We know they also met with Rasul Douglas. What does this mean for the Seahawks roster? I know a lot of you have been concerned about the cornerback position. I know I've expressed surprise, and we've talked about it quite a bit on the show, that nothing came of the draft at the corner position. Now, it was a fairly weak cornerback class. If they didn't take one, this was my thought going into the draft, if they didn't take one in the first 3 rounds, then I was fine with them punting on the position. It didn't go that way for a couple of reasons. The trade up to get Nick Emmanwori obviously robbed them of one of their 5 picks they initially had in the top 90-ish. And then the class dropped off quite a bit after the 3rd round. And then choosing to use a pick on Jalen Milroe at 92 really kind of was their last opportunity to take a decent corner in this class, at least as far as I'm concerned. Now, there's certainly talent on the roster, right? We know this. Riq Woolen, as polarizing as he might be among some of you, the organization still believes in him. Leslie Frazier said just a year ago they thought he could be a number 1 corner in this league and travel with number 1 wide receivers. But he's in the last year of his rookie deal. Devin Witherspoon, we're kind of poised on the edge of waiting for him to have that big breakout year where he puts it all together. But we know the value he has to the defense, the versatility, being able to play inside, outside. In just his 3rd year in the league, we had a revelation of a year from Josh Jobe last year, signed off the Eagles practice squad. He earned himself a contract this year after initially being a tendered restricted free agent. And then Nehemiah Pritchett, drafted out of Auburn in the 5th round last year. Shamar Jean-Charles signed in free agency this offseason after a season in New Orleans. And then a couple of undrafted free agent signings, most notably Zy Alexander out of LSU, who has a better than decent chance, let's say a non-zero chance of making the roster. Not a lot of buzz coming out of OTAs about his performance, but again, tough to gauge that time of year, especially when it comes to the secondary, with the rules restricting being able to make plays on the ball. So what does this mean? It's veteran depth. That's really all it is. If any of you are out there thinking, wait a minute, are they thinking about trading Riq Woolen? Right? No, this is not that. Shaq's just not that player anymore. And really, the story of his career is he never became that player. Right? Drafted in 2017 in the 3rd round with the 90th overall pick. And up until the Seahawks drafted Devin Witherspoon, number 5 overall 2 years ago, that was the highest any corner had been drafted under John Schneider, Pete Carroll. Turns 30 next month on the 20th of July. So just 3 days before training camp, he will be 30 years old. That is usually not a good thing for corners, especially ones like Shaq who rely so much on athleticism. And really that was the story, and that is what got him drafted out of Central Florida. It was, hold on, got the wrong graphic up there. It was this. A 9.88 relative athletic score. He ran a 4.38 40 at the combine. You can see all the other explosive testing numbers there. That is an unbelievable grade. And we saw that. We saw that on the field. What we didn't get was the production. These are his career numbers. He had his best year in Seattle his last year in Seattle in 2020 with 3 interceptions. That's a career high. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Solid coverage grades, solid in the run game. Did everything fairly well. Wasn't great at anything. The athleticism never turned into productions. The Seahawks let him walk after his rookie year, in part because somebody was willing to pay. The Jacksonville Jaguars gave him a 3-year, $45.5 million deal with $20 million guaranteed, but he never saw the third year of that contract. He was okay in 2021, his first year in Jacksonville, before injuries and, again, lack of ball production caught up with him his second year in Jacksonville. They end up releasing him. He's bounced around since. Now, he had kind of a comeback or a bounce back year in Minnesota last year. As you can see, not a full-time starter, only started 3 games in his 17 appearances, 2 interceptions, recorded some of his best PFF grades, particularly as a run defender, the second best run defense grade of his career at 71.7, and by far, and this may have been why they ended up choosing him, and we'll have to see what the money is, but I would expect it to be very nominal late career veteran starter cornerback money. By far his best grade as a tackler last year at 82.1. Shaq Griffin just doesn't make plays on the ball. He doesn't intercept the ball. Only 8 interceptions in 7 career games. And I can't remember who I was talking to on the show a couple of weeks ago, but his name came up. And I think it was Brandon Kane in the Hawks Nest. And before I could even say it, he said it. And that was sort of his trademark was he'd be in position to make a play on the ball because of his speed, but he wouldn't turn his head in time and just didn't have the ball skills. There were so many times that he seemed like he was in a position to make a play, should have gotten an interception or at least a PBU, and didn't make a play on the ball. But none of that matters now. This is veteran depth. I think his path to making the roster is a fairly uphill battle. If I were redoing my 53-man roster sketch today, I don't think I'd have him making the team. This is a classic case of just a make good deal. Like, let's see if he has anything left in the tank. If he does, great locker room guy, great personality. We obviously know the story with he and his twin brother, who was also drafted by the Seahawks. And what a great story that was, and what a vibrant personality he is. I mean, this isn't Jalen Ramsey, right? Where the talk again just today, Corbin Smith writing a story based on some sourcing of 5 potential veterans they could trade for. And the thing about Jalen Smith that he pointed out in that piece was how he still sees himself as an alpha dog and still wants to be that guy. And so situation is going to matter as much to a guy like Jalen Ramsey as the contract. With Shaq, it's not the case. Obviously, there was some time that went by here since the visit, a couple of months. I'm certain at this point in his career, shopping around the league, seeing, trying to milk as much interest as he can league-wide and get the best deal he can. So again, we'll see what the numbers look like. But this is, I don't think there's any cause for concern on anyone's part in the fan base of what this might mean to the starters. If he comes in and plays well and shows that he can be a guy in a rotation that can play some meaningful snaps, as he did in Minnesota last year. He was a rotational corner. But again, he played well in the run game. That's important to Mike McDonald. And he had 2 interceptions as not being a full-time starter. Like, that's his second most interceptions that he's had in a season. He's only matched that one other time and eclipsed it one other time. So 7 of his 8 interceptions happened in the span of 3 of his 7 seasons, right? So you bring him in. He's a great guy in the locker room. He works hard, and he can give you some rotational value. To me, it really kind of comes down to, first of all, how they feel about Nathaniel Pritchett. And Corbin told us on the show and is breaking down what he saw in OTAs that he looked good. It looked like he might be ready to take a step forward. The team likes him. I think it comes down to how they feel about him, whether he earns himself a roster spot, and then it becomes Shaq Griffin versus Shamar Jean-Charles, 2 veteran corners. They can both play special teams. There's value to be had there. And then whether or not they carry 4 or 5 corners. If he makes the team, I don't know how much it impacts Devin Witherspoon's role, for example. Maybe it allows him to play a little bit more inside. This depends, of course, on how they plan to use Nick Emenwari and how much slot he's going to play. But Shaq has played virtually 0 inside in his career. So that's not going to be something in his tool belt or anything that the Seahawks are going to be looking to get from him. He is an outside corner. So he gives you, I think at best, he's your fourth corner on this roster. And I think it's a little bit of an uphill battle even for him to achieve that. So just a quick little, hey, this happened today. I was literally walking out the door to go to the gym, hence the Under Armour shirt. And then when you get a DM from Jordan Schultz saying that, hey, this is happening, you react to it. A couple of things I want you to check out. If you haven't watched my conversation with Robert Mays of the Athletic Football Show that was posted late yesterday, please do. He's just one of the smartest in the business. He has such a great objective view of the entire league, and I think you're gonna be intrigued by his thoughts pertaining to the Seahawks and the NFC West as a whole. And then I'll be recording a show tonight. Probably won't be released until the very early morning with Christopher Kidd of the Man to Man podcast. Really excited to have him on the show for the first time. We're going to talk about some forgotten players on this roster and also a couple of guys that we think have the most pressure on them to perform, kind of 2025 or bust. So check that out as well. Please subscribe to the show if you haven't already. All the other ways you can support me are linked and listed and described down below in the description. We'll see you next time on Seahawks Forever. You can follow me there on Twitter as well, at Seahawks Forever. Forever and always go Hawks. See you soon.